What's up? One Piece fans. Oh, it's your boy Koziki the Dawn. One Piece chapter 987, titled The Faithful Servant, is out, and the hype in this chapter. What a time to be following One Piece, what a time to be reading One Piece. This is the greatest story to be told in all time. There's no other story that's lasted over 2 decades. It's already broken a record of its own. And how does Oda keep doing this? Every single chapter is hype. Anyway, so without further ado, let's just get back into it. And we come back to Kaido's flashback. He's getting a flashback to when he got sliced up with Oden, and then remembers Oden's execution when he threw the scabbards, telling them to open the borders of Wano. And he remembers Oden's last words, telling him, or let's say warning him, not to underestimate his scabbards, not to underestimate his samurai. So, and Kaido goes on to just remember how he told Oden that he'd be remembered for generations to come, which is true. With the deepest attest to this being Kaido's own son or daughter, however you want to call her or him. Kaido's own son Kaido's own daughter. She just identifies as Oden, but she's his daughter. Yeah? At least until 8 years old, she was his daughter. So Kaido's own daughter is the one who's assimilated Oden's will. She was absolutely smitten with Oden's death. She was not exactly Oden's death, but Oden as a man, whatever Oden was able to accomplish. Therefore, meaning for as long as Yamato lives, Oden's name will always be on her mouth, meaning Oden will still be alive. And his story will continue being told for generations to come. So Kaido actually foresaw this. He saw how magnificent a death that was, and how it could have easily impacted on a lot of people. And he continues to execute Oden, shooting him before he was able to say his face. Then we come back to the actual reality. Kaido falling over the stage, the scabbards on him. Everyone just recognized the scabbards, and everyone's all in a frenzy. Everyone's running to get their weapons. We see Kinemon. His face is full of rage. He stabs into Kaido, actually penetrating his skin. We also see Kiku having penetrated through Kaido's palm. And Nekomamushi still dealing with Kaido's Kanombo. He is actually the one who's disarmed Kaido from his main weapon. Then we see Raizo on top of Kaido at his neck with 2 blades crisscrossing. Oh my god, they are absolutely furious. And you can imagine just how it's been for them. Someone like Kinemon, Raizo, Kiku, those who are sent 20 years into the future, meaning Oden's execution, to them it's just been about 6 months ago. They're still dealing with that pain. It's still fresh in their hearts. And for even the other scabbards, the amount of pain they've had to endure waiting for those 20 years to elapse. Ashuradoji had to see his men die when they thought that they were dying anyway from their hunger and starvation, and they figured it will be better to die a warrior's death in war. They decided to challenge Kaido, even knowing that they weren't going to win. For Nekomamushi and Inuarashi, they went back to the Mink Kingdom, became their rightful kings, been training all this time, hard time. I'm guessing it wasn't so hard for them, but of course they had that mental torture and having to wait, having to just know that in 20 years' time, there is a battle that we're expected to show up in our in our strongest forms. There's a lot of pain, a lot of emotion behind the Scarabs attack. Kaido was the one who killed their lord, killed him prematurely. Oden was such a lad. The man got Oden's attention, Roger's attention, got Whitebeard's attention. He was strong enough to be acknowledged by this monster. People worth 5 billion. Even Roger's attack, a named attack, it sent Oden flying, did some damage to him, but it didn't take him out. He still got up. This man was just a legend. He was so young. He was still just getting into his prime. He traveled with Oden, even with Roger, to the last island. Already knew the secrets of the world, knew of what he was to expect in the 20 years' time. He had so much to do, like so much he had planned for Wano. And you can imagine a Wano with Oden as the shogun. Must be something just easy. He's a man who personified, embraced freedom. We wonder what kind of land will he have created. Kaido killed him prematurely before he achieved even half. By reaching the final island, you can say he already achieved all he set out to do. But yeah, you get me, huh? So then Kaido's scar from Oden's battle, where Oden sliced him up, begins to throb, and Kaido's shocked. We see him is wondering how the Scarabs have managed to pierce him. Why is the wound Oden gave him aching? And I foretold this in the previous chapter, in my previous review, in the sense that it seems Kaido's this armament haki, that makes Kaido and the characters like Kaido and Big Mom indestructible, seems to be stemming from haki, from willpower. That moment that you lose that willpower, that moment that you think yourself not strong enough or vulnerable to someone, to some attack, that moment you show fear. That's the most vulnerable, the weakness of that sort of armament haki. With Big Mom, when Mother Camel's photo was broken, she lost it. She absolutely lost it. And that's the moment they had planned for the assassination. When Big Mom loses it, loses her protective armament haki, because she's lost her mind. And that's the moment they were aiming to strike her down. So the same thing might have applied to Kaido here. He doubted himself. He had that post-traumatic Oden disorder, which made him his defenses a bit weaker than they usually should be. Kaido says something interesting, talking about the Scarabs having Oden's Ryo, which might be kind of like how Katakuri described that even there's stages with armament haki, and there's different types of haki that blossom differently for different people according to your kind of willpower, according to how you utilize your powers. Everyone develops haki that suits their way of fighting. And Oden's might have been something legendary, something out of this world, something like maybe close to what Enma as a blade itself does. That's sucking out a warrior's, the user's life power, converting it into this devastating strike, this way more powerful strikes. And Kaido begins to scream. Even his men down below are all shocked at Kaido screaming. We get a nice panel where of all the Scarabs' faces, they are all angry, the veins are popping. Nekomamushi looks so scary, and they swing their blades, slamming Kaido down through the ground, taking them down below. And the men are all getting up there. they are just finally reacting to the raid, and they still think that the Scabbards are by themselves, so they're like they should go kill the Scabbards. But then they also figure that there may be more intruders. At which point, Old Man Hyo's groups, the samurai being led by Old Man Hyo that had been intermingled with the Beast Pirates, take off the disguises Kinemon made for them, thus their clothes reverting back to their samurai regalia. Standing between the Scabbards and the Beast Pirates, just to give the Scabbards that time to themselves to finish the job. They knew that if Kaido is taken down, then Wano is essentially liberated. The problem was never Orochi, the problem was never King or Jack or Queen, it was Kaido. So that's where they should focus their strongest attacks, their strongest fighters. They will figure that much, and now the samurai being led by Old Man Hyo are standing in between them. I wonder how efficient that was. They had already intermingled with these Beast Pirates, in the sense that it would have been so much easier if they just started slicing them down, just doing it in one motion. Throw your disguise away, and as your clothes turn, you're already slicing someone's throat off. Simple as that. But well, I'm guessing they're samurai and they have this warrior's code, warrior's honor, in which they have to face their opponents head on. Nothing behind the back, no tricks, just power against power, skill against skill. So Beast Pirates are noticing them as they transform, figuring out that these are the samurai that were supposed to have been arrested in Udon and in the flower capital. Big Mom is just there, still smiling, laughing. I'm guessing she knows that that will never be able to take down Kaido. The Scabbards, according to, from her point of view, nothing is able to take down Kaido, including herself. She maybe thinks of herself as an equal, and she frankly doesn't believe that anyone currently in Wano is able to take down Kaido. So she's still smiling. She doesn't think of this as this bigger problem. Then Yamato calls to Luffy, telling him that they should go attack Kaido now while he's weak, while he's being attacked by the Scabbards. And Luffy's just smiling at how strong the Scabbards were. And it seems that the attack on Kaido is in reliable hands. It's only fitting that the Scabbards had to break out the war. They had to be the trigger to the whole fight. Simultaneously, they've saved Momonosuke, they've kept Jack and King occupied, and they've taken down Kaido, taken Kaido out of the vicinity. They've done a lot. They're actually displaying high degrees of competence, and this, if anything, Wano stands for it's competence. This arc has been just all about competence. The king's way, the king's being able to deliver your will against all odds. That's what Wano is. But since we know that Luffy has to be the one that takes down Kaido, this frankly scares me. Seeing the Scabbards attacking Kaido like this, because it means they are going to lose. Kaido doesn't seem to be much for sympathy, that they want to let the Scabbards go after defeating them. It really wants to take them, to kill them right off. So it's that much scarier. Ulti comes up, clashes with Yamato. She also has a club of her own, has a bit more spikes, and it's longer, slimmer and bulges towards the top. And It's funny that Luffy has already made a nickname for Ulti, considering her quirk being the headbutt. That's also amplified with her devil fruit power, which is the Pachycephalosaurus, which is basically the dinosaur which had this big head. I'm guessing it used to knock down, ram its head on trees to get down the fruits from up in them. Anyway, so Ulti starts arguing with Yamato. Like she looks really pissed. Like this isn't something that had been done before. It doesn't seem like Yamato frequently has bouts with the Flying Six, and it doesn't seem to be the case, because Ulti seems frankly pissed. Like that's never happened before. Maybe it might imply that Yamato had been downplaying her power before, just because she knew she couldn't leave Wano. She might just have done that just to pass by, to leave, basically. And it's at that point Yamato just decides to address and state her stand pretty clearly. Now she seems to be more control of her emotions, of herself, and now she knows that Kaido is okay with killing her, that those cuffs on her wrists actually work. Her trying to leave Wano will actually lead to her death. So now she's decided to cut off her ties with Kaido. She said that Kaido is no longer her dad, and it seems she's going through with it. She says that the day to become Kozuki Oden has come, which shocks Ulti. It's like, where the fuck did that come from? Who's Kozuki Oden? Probably Ulti most definitely doesn't know of Oden. Oden died 20 years ago. Ulti herself doesn't seem that old. Considering her and Page One's relationship, they seem to be at the very oldest 20. I wouldn't put her to be above 20 years old. So should I get and ask if Yamato is an idiot? And then another member of the Beast Pirates comes addressing Yamato, trying to lay down the situation to her as if she just wasn't there watching everything that's going on. So this guy comes and tells him that her father has been attacked, and there are a lot of enemies on the floor. And Yamato turns to him, saying plainly that she's not their ally anymore, and she doesn't care if her father dies. At that moment, Big Mumps bursts into the scene, which is another comedic moment. Luffy telling her that he's busy right now. Oh my god, the sheer attitude, the Pirate King's attitude that Luffy has been exuding, that Luffy has been demonstrating all along, it's coming out. We saw how he picked a fight with Big Mom in Fishman Island without a second thought. Went to her island, even when Luffy had been imprisoned in Big Mom's that book, that prison of books or something. Luffy was nailed to the wall and still talking smack, telling Big Mom to not get so cocky, that she's just an emperor. Luffy is giving no respect to the emperors at all. He's just doing him at the end of the day, as he's always been carrying himself. Big Mom seems to be getting more and more intrigued with Luffy. We see that she's even willing to have a conversation with him. When she came here, she was like raging, She didn't seem like she was up for any discussions, up for any negotiations. She still isn't. I'm not saying she's like negotiating with Luffy, but she's willing to listen to what Luffy is actually saying. She seems to be intrigued with Luffy. So once Big Mom turns her focus on Luffy, Nami and Carrot decide to make the escape. Of course, they knew that the problem was Big Mom herself, not the actual homies. So she uses the black balls, releasing the thunder, the clouds and the lightning strikes inside the mouth or inside the heads of this homie, and Carrot strikes the other homie. And Big Mom continues her conversation with Luffy, saying that she's come from far away just to kill him. Remember, Big Mom came to Wano with the express desire to kill Luffy and restore her honor, because her name was exploited by Big News Morgans to crown Luffy into the 5th Emperor. It was using Big Mom's unfortunate attack on Whole Cake Island that Big News Morgans used to hype Luffy, talking about how Luffy brought the Fire Tank Pirates under his banner in order to lead them against Big Mom. And we know that the largest chunk of the plan was Capone. Capone had thought about the plan for a very long time. He was the one who actually figured Big Mom's weakness. So Big Mom goes on to ask Luffy why he came there and states that Luffy should give him a funny and ridiculous reason, like that he's come to defeat Kaido. Are you? And Luffy's like, you're right. That's not why I'm here. Everyone's shocked. This one, it's a nice parallel to what happens just in this same chapter, just a few panels into the future. I'll talk about it when we get to it. Luffy goes on to Yamato is shocked, asking Luffy why he's there. Old Man Yo is shocked there. The samurai are shocked, and Luffy just confirms what he's saying. I mean, elaborates what he's saying that he didn't just come here to kill Kaido. He's come to take down their commanders, Orochi and his subordinates. I've come to kick all you guys' asses. It's an all-out war. Luffy declares war straight at the Yonko Alliance, at Big Mom's face, and Kaido is in the ground just a few meters nearby. So he actually hears Luffy. Oh, Mama, as usual, Mama, don't be so full of yourself just because you are able to bring a few hundred people. And Queen comes off the woodwork. I wonder, all the scabbards just jump straight for Kaido. I wonder, was there none left to save Momonosuke? Because Queen is here. Guys is talking about, affirming Big Mom's statement about Luffy just being caught because they had 100 or so men. Then Queen gets a call, and here's the report. Here, there are thousands of intruders going into the castle through the rear. Queen has big faces. Queen drops one of his faces in shock. We switch to the narration continues, like the report being delivered to Queen. The samurai that we should have arrested in the Flower Capital, we see them fighting together with Kid and Killer. Killer is back to his usual dressing. Of course, we don't see him laughing unnecessarily, and I'm guessing with a smile devil fruits, it's not like it makes you constantly keep laughing, like you can't stop laughing. It's just like it robs you the ability to express any other emotion other than laughing. So if you just calm, yes, you'll be smiling, but you're just smiling. Maybe if you try to laugh, or if you try to get angry, if you try to get angry, or if you're sad, if you try to cry, then you laugh. That's where the pain is. When you're trying to express your sadness, the pain, but all you can do is laugh. So I wouldn't say Killer was nerfed on fighting Zoro. That's what I'm driving this conversation to. He wasn't nerfed. I think that Killer was just strong enough. He had his wits around. Yes, he was laughing about, but he was just expressing his emotions. Only that all the emotion he could express was laughter, was joy, that unnecessary laughter, unnecessary joy. Now he's just going about his business as usual. He has the face mask that he usually has on, so him smiling the entire time wouldn't be a problem anymore. So anyway, then we cut back to Zoro. We switch to another panel with Zoro and the reporter, the one reporting the news to Queen, what he was saying, the prisoners of Udon, who are seen working with Zoro, slicing down these pirates here and there, and then adding to the pirates the former Shichibukai, Trafalgar Law. Everyone is joined together, and the force just keeps increasing. We see Law probably doing some shambles or a room technique because his sword is just on his shoulder. And furthermore, for some reason, Mako the Phoenix and Charlotte the Perospero are in the entrance. I thought that Mako and Perospero will fight. I thought that was the whole reason why Mako went there. Now we see Perospero with his back turned to Mako, meaning they are not fighting. They arrived together, meaning they are working together for some reason. Mako would probably have spoken to Perospero and learned that Perospero was against the alliance and figured that Perospero would serve as a nice cog to throw into the alliance machinery, and decided to let him just make his way to Onigashima. So I don't know the deal with that. That might be what Mako has thought about. Mako is a smart guy, remember. If he feels that Perospero might help them delay or throw a cog in the plans of the alliance, well, that will be the best way to go about it, to actually accompany Perospero in the place that he decides to turn against Luffy's side. You can always just take him out. But of course, it's not that simple a job to do, yeah? But then we turn to Kaido, and these full-page spreads are just amazing. I'm just going to read the conversation. Kaido. So Kaido is here with the scabbards down below. He's getting up. He has blood on his face, on his clothes where he was stabbed. Doesn't seem to have gotten that much damage from it. The scabbards have surrounded him, each with their swords drawn. And Kaido goes on this monologue trying to piece together everything that's been happening. Here he goes. The mythical Orochi's delusions that no one believed, it's starting to come together. Odine's castle and rumors of the shadows, Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, the mythical island zoo. Interesting that you guys hid behind the backs of the Straw Hats who I deemed as enemies. I didn't expect you to side with pirates. This is interesting because it actually gives credence to how the scabbards have been able to get this entire way without that much problems. Why it has seemed so easy for them to get all the way to Kaido. It's because Kaido and everyone else, well, they thought that Luffy was acting independently. As it is, they know nothing of Luffy's character. They don't know what drives Luffy, and that's why they misjudged him. Talking about Luffy's betrayal. Okay, let me just finish, then I'll discuss it. I didn't expect you to side with pirates, secreting yourselves for 20 years, running around for so long. Good job gathering this many soldiers. And you see the faces of the scabbards. Oh, Nekomamushi just looks terrifying. And Kaido continues, but the pirates will betray you. When they realize they're going to lose, they turn their backs on you and run away. Oh, no. I've already broken down that straw hat Luffy's overconfidence, referring to him smacking down Luffy with his Thunder Bagua, the Raime Haki. So, Kinemon cuts him short, saying that Luffy is not like Kaido. That is different. He's not just any other pirate, as many people have come to learn after interacting with Luffy. He's just not some other pirate. As many people, even in our life, when you think of a pirate, you think of a rough, scruffy guy with no morals who plunders and pillages villages and steals and does all these raids and kills. It's not the typical the thing you think of when you look at Luffy's face. I mean, so Kinemon goes on to state his firm belief and confidence in Luffy, saying that he is the man who will come to stand at the top of the oceans. Even if we die, he will always be there. The dawn will always come to one. That is my promise to that man. And one thing I want to mention, Kinemon and the Scabbards all are bleeding. All of them are bleeding. It seems that the technique, we haven't seen, unless Kaido struck all of them each in that split second as they were falling. Of course, it wasn't a second, but as they were falling down, probably Kaido hit back at all of them. But 9 of them, how quick is Kaido? Just bam, 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 before it's marched down. That would be crazy, man. And so, what will this imply? It might imply that the techniques the Scabbards are using are meant to draw power from their own lives, life forces. And with each time they use this power, they get so much damage. Their bodies get wrecked. So using that Ryo that Oden used might come at a detriment to the user. Maybe Oden using the Ameno Habakiri and the Enma together might have been able to balance out the drawing of life energy and absorbing of the life energy. Maybe that's why Oden was able to use it without damaging himself that much. And besides that, Oden was a beast of a man. This is the same guy that hung onto a chain while being pulled by a ship for 3 days. Was it 3 days or 24 hours? Either way, it's a feat like no other. Being dredged across the ocean, bumping into sea kings and fish and stones, and Oden was just a beast in his own right. Just his physical body, so he might have been able to handle this technique much better than the Scabbards are able to. Meaning they won't be able to use this technique for that long a period. And if anything, Kaido has been prided in being is durable. These Zoan fruits are prided to being the most durable fruits in our fight. So Kaido speaks of Luffy betraying them, and you can just, for a second, just try to imagine if Luffy betrayed the samurai there and then, joining the two Yonko. Kaido is playing such a scenario to the Scabbards. That's why you saw earlier Old Man Hyo and Yamato all shocked at Luffy's response, saying taking down Kaido wasn't the only reason he'd come there. They were like, oh shit, is Luffy just another pirate? Is he trying to betray us now already? Is this going to be an alliance forming of 3 emperors? Oh my god, so it would have been devastating to any person if they didn't have a prior idea of how Luffy is, of what Luffy does. He tries to play this to waver the Scabbards' faith in Luffy, the Scabbards' determination. Because Kaido at this point, as I said earlier, he doesn't know of Luffy. He doesn't know how Luffy is. He just saw him once and Luffy attacked him straight up. He demolished him with just one attack. So he has no idea of Luffy's character. He doesn't know how Luffy is, what he does. Of course, he's heard of his praise and of his accomplishments, which, as we well know now, that this can be exaggerated. He might have thought Luffy, considering his infamy throughout the world, would only be there to serve his own ambitions, to serve his own purpose. But he meets Azkabans who already have given Luffy their seals of approval. Without Luffy, Kinemon and Momo, the entire reason for this rebellion, the entire anchor of Wano, will be dead in Pankazan if Luffy hadn't shown up, if Luffy hadn't answered the call to help. And even in Zou, Nekomamushi and Inuarashi will be dead by now if Sanji and the rest of Luffy's crew, Chopper and the rest, hadn't showed up. The big tribe will essentially be exterminated by now, with the exception of the ones that were not, that hadn't been currently on Wano by then. They would be dead. They are heavily indebted to Luffy and are aware of how kind and selfless and idiotic he is. They know that Luffy wouldn't pull such a move, that he wouldn't dare betray people. If anything, that's what Luffy hates the most. So we switch to Queen, addressing the rest of the Scabbards in Onigashima, telling them that the festival has been cancelled. Get your weapons. Everyone's now in Ascari getting their weapons, and these guys were half drunk. They'd been drinking a few moments ago, and of course, being I drink myself, so I can understand how they had to get sober. I can remember the days when maybe I had to encounter police during a night of drinking, and you have to get sober quick, or you sleep in jail, essentially. So these guys, the Beast Boys, they need to get sober quick. And the samurai are all cheering. They're chanting that they are here to take back Wano country. We might be able to see some interesting fights here. Maybe the samurai being led by Onimonyo, fighting against the 5,000 Oniwa Banshan, against the 5,000 Bibiwarigumi, being led by Hote, the samurai of Wano. So we might get some interesting fights. It's been so long since, okay, of course, in Wano we've been getting a lot more sword fights, and I guess we want to see more of that. We want to see maybe more named blades, more of the great swords, and the 13 great swords, and the Ozo Wazamono, and all those swords. It will be interesting to get a few of them explored, maybe being wielded by some of these samurai. Then Kaido's voice sounds from underground. I heard you, Straw Hat. Come, I will accept your challenge. Then Kaido passed through the crowd in his full dragon form. I'm sure Oda's having such a blast drawing Kaido. He is such nice aesthetic. It must be really fun to draw him. I remember how much fun I used to have trying to draw dragons as a kid. And he goes on to say, I'll show you the strength of the world's strongest power. Whoa, no. Kaido continues flying up, twisting in his dragon form, twisting while he flies. Oh, such a nice piece of drawing. Then we notice the Scabbards hanging onto Kaido's scales, on Kaido's back. What? How did this happen? Kinemon shouts out to Luffy that he appreciates his help, and Luffy is on many occasions saying that he never says goodbye. He tells people that they meet again, kind of giving them that promise that they stay alive. And it's interesting to just think of the scenario that led to the Scabbers actually mounting Kaido. Kaido actually turned into a dragon and let the Scabbers climb onto him and hold on so that it just take them to a better ground. So we get this nice view of Kaido in his full dragon view, dragon form, looking down on the Scabbers, the full moon behind him, shining behind him, probably giving him this amazing aesthetic. And the snow is falling, and Kaido states that he is already sobered up. It's like Oda's way of saying that no one's nerfed in this fight. No one's like that. Oh, he was defeated because he was drunk, or that he was defeated because some bullshit reason. Kaido states as much, that is sobered up. And we get a shot of this view from a mile away. We see Kaido's form looking really tiny on top of the Skull Dome, just to big Oda's way to just show us how big and expansive this area that they are on is, and how appropriate it would be for this huge, large-scale battle, fighting among a dragon and 9 warriors. And Kaido goes on to say that if he wanted to battle, he'd better do it in an open space like it was on that day. And he goes to say that although Oden is already dead, kind of implying that he took them up there so that he'd have that advantage and take them down. But Nekomamushi goes on to disprove this, saying that there's still other differences from that day. We figured that you wouldn't want to be able to fight in the dome in your dragon form. And we'll want to go up there. So I wonder if Kaido wouldn't want to fight in his dragon form there, why wouldn't they just force him to fight there? Take advantage of it, because Kaido wouldn't want to trash his castle. And for the Scabbers, this is their lives they put on the line. The fate of one who rests on them. Everyone thinks of... Kaido's plan is to turn the flower capital, which is the main capital of the island, into a lawless zone. All the other parts of the country have already been ravaged. Companies, factories have already been set up that have been just plundering the land and throwing so much pollution into the air, into the water. So why the fuck would they give Kaido that choice, that advantage to be able to fight in his strongest form? But Arashi, they'd already thought of this, and they had a plan up their sleeves. They brought all the big warriors from the they might be all of them. On top of the dome, they were there waiting for Kaido. The entirety of I'm guessing the elite squad of the Binks, that's the Arashi's guard and Nekomamushi's personal guard. And we get a view again of the full moon. Neko says, no, the flower petals, the full moon, I can see it well tonight. And we get this view of Neko looking malicious as fuck. That aesthetic with his scar running down his eye, his teeth in this grade, his deathly grade. Neko is a monster in his usual state. Now he's turning into an actual monster. God! Oh my god, all the Binks are going to turn into So now we get the reason why they allowed Kaido to go to the rooftop, so that it will advantage them even more. Having this Sulong from both Neko and Inuarashi, they're already strong enough to fight a commander in their base forms. How about when they are in their Sulong forms? Will they be above the commanders and right there at maybe right hand man level, or will they just be just a teeny bit lower than a Yonko level, and maybe it just works for a short period of time. We know that if they overuse it, they lose their minds, which was hinted in the Whole Cake Island. Carrot turned into her Sulong form. She got really, really powerful, but after a while she had to lie down. Because she would have lost her mind otherwise. In this moment, Kaido is known for his durability. He might be able to push the fight to that point where the Minks are forced to stay there so long, way more past what's required. They might have to lose their minds, and they might actually become a detriment to the Samurai Alliance, rather than an actual ally. This chapter was just amazing, and I love how Oda has done this, showing Kaido that he's not unbeatable, that he's not indestructible, by highlighting this. It also goes just to show how Oda uses the newspapers and the hyping of people, and the narrator speaking of Kaido's accomplishments, how he wasn't able to be killed, how he was hung, the rope broke, he was stabbed, the spears broke. They couldn't execute the man couldn't die. So of course, if he's been arrested by the Marines that many times, and they've tried to kill him and couldn't manage that. Oh, but of course, well, this will mean when Kaido is expecting it, and he has his wits around him. This was a surprise attack. He wasn't ready for it. He had this post-traumatic Oden disorder, which wavered his defense armament hiking. But oh Lord, this fight is going to be amazing. All the Minks in there so long, which they must be incredibly powerful, using Electro, fighting Kaido by himself. As the Scabbards, the rest of the Scabbards, who are no slouches either. Denjiro was the leader of the Yakuza. He was the strongest samurai, I'm guessing, in Onorochi's side, even if he was pretending for that period, but he was the strongest samurai there. Ashura Doji, he was able to slash Jack easily. He was able to compete with a commander on par. Nekomamushi and Inuarashi individually were able to compete with a commander in their base levels, in their base forms, I mean. And they really thought this out. And all these attacks are going to... I can't wait to see how Kaido fights back, how it will come out on top, getting being crushed by all these things in their full so long forms with their claws out and their animal instincts, meaning they can react much faster to attacks. Nekomamushi is literally a cat. He's a cat. Of course he can talk, but he's a cat at the end of the day. You know how cats, their reactions are, how adept to battle their bodies are, how deadly cats can be. A lion is a cat, a tiger is a cat. So just picture a lion in its wild form. That's how Nekomamushi is. But now he has his wits with him, with that much power. So he's able to react much faster, be able to... Oh my god, this fight it's going to be really, really off the charts. So anyway, hey, I've talked for long enough. Guys, just tell me what you think about this chapter in the comment section below. Kindly like, share, and subscribe if you like my content. It really does help. Please just well, have a wonderful day. It's your boy Kozukididon, and I'm out. Peace.